Hello and welcome to episode 40 of Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty. Of course, I am your host, Rick Doherty. On today's show, we're going to be joined by two of our favorite regulars. First, we'll be talking to Jeff, who is a Walt Disney World cast member and the creator of the blog Magical Pursuit. I'm eager to learn about the phenomenon of pin trading in the Disney parks, so Jeff is going to be providing his knowledge of that topic as both a pin collector and a WDW cast member. After we talk with Jeff, Sarah from Seattle will be back on the show for the third straight week. Sarah and I will be doing our dining review for Blue Bayou in New Orleans Square in Disneyland. We enjoyed a dinner at Blue Bayou on the first day of our big Disneyland trip back in August. You won't want to miss this review. As always, I just want to remind you that I am an authorized Disney vacation planner, and my services are always 100% free to you. Just $200 down can get you locked in and started on your next Walt Disney World or Disneyland vacation. I also specialize in Disney Cruise Line, Universal Orlando Resort, Universal Hollywood, and major cities around the globe. To start talking about that next vacation, you can reach me at rick@eartotheretravel.com, rick@eartotheretravel.com, or 727-507-3123, 727-507-3123. Without further ado, let's welcome Jeff. As I mentioned, Jeff is a Walt Disney World cast member, creator of the blog Magical Pursuit, and an avid pin trader. Thanks for joining us, Jeff.
Oh, quite welcome. It's always good to talk to you.
I'm really excited about this episode because for once, I'm going to be doing a lot of learning in this episode, because while I'm familiar with pin trading, I have a lot of friends who do pin trading. I even, for example, with you, will be in the parks and we'll go around to different pin boards and I will see it happening. But I don't know the ins and outs and what have yous, to paraphrase The Big Lebowski, to get into the real specifics of pin trading. You're a big pin trader, and I'm really interested in hearing a lot more about this hobby, and you're probably going to end up talking me into spending thousands of dollars over the next few years. I know that my wife Courtney is worried that's how this episode is going to end. But let's just get into it and start with the very basics. What is pin trading at Walt Disney World?
Pin trading is a very basic way to interact. People will have lanyards with pins on them. You'll see them walking around the parks. You will see in certain areas of the park, cast members kind of right next to a giant board that has pins on it. And what you can do is trade one of yours for one that's on the board. It's really that basic of a concept, one for one.
And now correct me if I'm wrong, but if I go up to a pin trading board and there's a cast member and they have all of these pins, as long as I am trading an official Disney pin, that cast member can't say no.
Correct.
I trade whatever pin I have that maybe I don't want, and I see one on that board that I want, and that cast member is just going to flip one for one, right?
Absolutely. As a cast member myself, so I know the rules of this. A lot of the pins that get traded I've seen before, or I know what they look like. One way you can check is look at the back of the pin. There's usually indentations of Mickey's head on them. Those are the newer ones. Some of the older ones don't have it, but they have an official stamp. And they are basically whatever one that you have will trade for whichever one is on the board. I'm not relegated to say, oh, that one's not expensive and the one you're getting is... That stuff doesn't happen. It is purely, you give me one, me as a cast member takes the one off the board you want and hands it to you. End of story.
So I would imagine this leads to a lot of different ways that people collect, because I might be looking at a board purely as somebody who used to be into baseball cards when I was younger. And there are people who specifically trade or deal in baseball cards purely for value, and they're trying to find when this is going to go up or when this is going to go down, and they're trying to make it a financial endeavor. But then there are people in the baseball card industry, and I would imagine the Disney pin trading community, who are just like, this is my favorite player, or this is my favorite Disney movie, or I'm looking for this in particular. So you can find some really quality pins for your interest because they might not necessarily be appealing to other people, even if they're really rare.
Yeah, there's all different types of pin traders out there. I will tell you this. The pin, I don't know, the pin market, the stock that is out in the world is both pins you can buy in the store. You can go into any Disney merchandise location and buy a pin. And also pins that cast members had. So before the pandemic times, every cast member, regardless of position, had either a lanyard or a piece of cloth or something on them that had pins on it that was given to them by Disney. Disney gave them the pins. You could only get those ones by trading. So if you look at any of your pins that you might have at home, if there's a silver Mickey on the front of it, that was a pin that came from a cast member. So you would go up to the cashier, you would go up to the janitor and say, do you mind if I look at your pins? And they would stop and say, sure, you take a look. There were people that would collect sets because some of them came out in sets. So the one I can think of, there's a square one. It just has a character on it. But they're usually on the more offshoot side of things. There's the, I think it's the iguanodon from the dinosaur ride at Animal Kingdom. There's like Figment and stuff like that. So there's 6 or 7 that all kind of look the same. And there's people that want to collect the set. So they go around and, oh, I don't have that one. I'll make a trade for it. And I'll trade that one to try to get the whole set. There's people like me who only collect for one character or from one movie. I've talked about it on the past. Y'all know what it is. And I go into the park and I see that pin and I want it. And I have right now 9, 12, 14, 15 of the same exact pin, but it's because it's my favorite character. All different ways. It's completely up to you how you want to do it.
And if this is the first time you're hearing Jeff on the show, that is Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And I believe the pin to which you are referring is the Jessica Rabbit pin.
Yes, it's a shield. It's kind of like a basic shield, and it has like stars and stripes in the background, like an American flag, and then it's Jessica Rabbit on it. And I can spot it from a whiles away, way away. You've been privy to that.
I actually saw Jeff acquire one of those 15 Jessica Rabbit pins when we were at Animal Kingdom one day. That was also a day that you got a really, really cool pin. And I think this might be a good time to talk about that one and take a little side journey right now. Mm-hmm. You got a real cool Body Wars pin. And that is an attraction. I don't know if a lot of people who are listening to the podcast remember Body Wars. It was basically the exact same ride vehicle system as Star Tours in Disney's Hollywood Studios and at Disneyland Park, only you were shrunken down to like the size of a cell or something like that, and you went through somebody's body. It was really that old school Epcot vibe, but a thrill ride all at the same time, and you found just one heck of a pin for it.
That's the beauty of pin trading, is that that's something that stood out to me, but someone might have 3 or 4 of those at home, or they don't know what Body Wars is. And so that's an easy one for them to trade, because I don't know what this is. I just got it. So I'm going to trade it away and get something that they like. So because everyone has such varying tastes and varying collections, you genuinely don't know what you're going to get when you walk up to a pin board. So as a cast member, I've worked a pin board. That was, part of my shift one day, is working them. And we have people coming up all the time. So the pin board that you look at is completely different 35 minutes later because of people trading. So you don't know what you're going to get when you go up there. And yeah, I found a pin from like the late 80s, early 90s when I'm walking up there, and it was an easy trade for me.
And just recently, Walt Disney World has introduced a new way of doing pin trading in the parks. And you have described it as an advent calendar. But we are going to go through and talk about this brand new sort of surprise way to do pin trading.
It's a board that has 24 kind of tiny boxes built into this board. So they hold the board up, there's 24 boxes. It's a complete mystery. You don't know what you're going to get. So you give a pin to the cast member, you tell them what box it is, they open it up and give you a pin. You don't know what it is, you don't know what you're going to get. And from what I've heard from people doing it that, come talk to me at my pin board, they said that they've gotten some really nice pins out of that. Like, because it's the mystery, they're not going to, give you a lower end pin or a common pin that you've seen at the boards. You go to the boards, you see a lot of them that have stuck around because the cast member ones kind of hang out. And there's so many cast members at Walt Disney World. There's going to be a lot of matching pins and similar sets and all of that stuff. Someone got a really nice one from like the early 2000s and stuff like that has the date written on it. So the date ones are quite rare and quite popular for purchase. So this is, purchase it for maybe $15 you got for a pin that you just traded.
And I think one thing that I've noticed from the pin boards that the cast members have around the parks, and since I walked around with you and you were stopping at every pin board and looking for specific things, I've now found myself stopping at pin boards just to look, even though I'm not doing any trading. But in the stores, Disney will sell like 3 packs of mystery pins where you'll know it's going to be this general theme to the pins, but you're going to get 3 random pins in the box, or I think some of them are 5, whatever. I definitely see a lot from those series on the pin boards because people will buy the 3 mystery pins. Maybe they like one of them and they'll go trade the other 2. So I definitely think that you find a lot of them. But would you say that getting those mystery boxes are a good way to get pins maybe a little cheaper than if you were buying them individually and then you have them to trade for other pins?
Taking off the cast member hat, speaking as a regular human individual right now, absolutely. Those, and they have some that are just basic sets that are like the Fab Five at the parks or something like that. There's a set you can see all the pins, and some people collect Donald, they'll buy that and then trade all the other ones away. It's a good way to get maybe a pin that you like, but also to have a set of pins that you are definitely going to trade away. You can go that way. A lot of those boxes, like you talked about, there's 8 to 10 in the set, and you want to collect the whole set. That might take 6 boxes, just because you'll get doubles, and then people will trade those doubles, as you said. It's a good way to build up your personal pin collection, but also a stock that you're willing to trade. You're not trading your rare Haunted Mansion 50th anniversary, whatever anniversary, they have those ones, those special ones, and you keep those and you display those. But it's a good way to build up your collection. As a tip for people, they also sell starter kits that are a lanyard with pins on it. So you get your lanyard you can wear around the park and then have the pins right there, easy to trade. I think they come with like 4 pins on them as well. So again, building up your stocks, you can make some good trades.
And you bring up an interesting point in some of these specialty pins. We just had the 50th anniversary of Walt Disney World. We're going to be celebrating it for 18 months. We're going to be celebrating it until the 60th anniversary. And there have been a lot of special pins for the 50th, but some of them you'll walk around to the different stores and you'll see them at each and every store. Some of them were very date specific. I know on October 2nd I was in the parks and I still saw a few of the October 1st pins, but they were starting to get few and far between in there. When it comes to special pins, what's a good way to tell if this is something that I might want to pick up right now, right away, or if maybe it will last for the entire 50th celebration? These things come out and they're in high demand. How can you sort of tell the difference? None of us have unlimited money. So if we're trying to get something that we think is going to be super special, how can you tell what's going to be that thing?
A lot of the the super special pins will come out on the day. And you kind of have to judge it based on your affinity for the thing. So I'll just start off right off the bat. So all the pins come on a card back. There's a card that the pin is stuck to. That's where like the price is on the back and all of that stuff. If you see on the front, it says limited edition, that means that they only made so many of them. And the park only got so many of them. Once those are gone, that's the end of it. The October 1st ones, that's a limited edition. They're not making any more of those. You see that in the park and it tickles your fancy, go for it. Every time you see those, pins are a big deal in the Disney community. So if you see one that you like that has limited edition written on it, go for it. Now, there's also just, the basic 50 logo. There's the 50 on the castle. There's the 50 with Mickey and Chip and Dale and all of that stuff. And it doesn't say limited edition on it. That means that's probably going to stick around a little bit more. Or we might be out, but the park is going to get more to last the whole 18 months. again, it's a very on the day thing. So like there was a St. Patrick's Day one for Jessica Rabbit that came out on St. Patrick's Day. They're not going to make those in October. You're not going to get those. So if you go to the park on a holiday, there's going to be holiday specific ones and stuff like that. So go by limited edition, or if you see like one of 1,000 or limited to 500, you see those in the park and you like it, pick it up.
Yeah, I think those are some really good points, Jeff. And I'm just going to add in something. I was at Disney's Hollywood Studios both the day Star Wars Galaxy's Edge opened to the public and the day that Star Wars Rise of the Resistance officially opened to the public as well. And on those days, there was special merchandise, magic bands, shirts, hats, and some of these limited edition pins. And you had to get into a line or a virtual queue, and you had to wait for your opportunity to buy these things. Those are some of the most in-demand pins, from what I understand, in the pin trading community. If you have something from the day a ride opened, or a land opened, or something like that, that's almost like a part of history, or Disney history anyway, and those seem to be really, really popular.
I don't know how often they do it, but it's something to keep an eye out for. Is I have a pin for Kilimanjaro Safari that has a piece of the ride in it. So there's like a little bubble attached to the pin that has a piece of the ride in it. And sometimes they do things like that for, like I said, there's special events happening with we're over 90 years of the Disney company being a thing. We just hit 50 for Walt Disney World. There's historic events, both park specific and just entertainment company specific. Your big movies, 25th anniversary pins, 30th anniversary pins, 35th anniversary pins, stuff like that comes out all the time, and usually right near the date of that. So you got your favorite movie, try to look on the date.
And I'll tell you, I am already very prepared because Brave came out in 2012. So I am hoping that we get a lot of Brave memorabilia coming up next year for the 10th anniversary. And earlier this year, one of the 4 Disney pins that I own, we just picked up very recently because it is an anniversary of Hunchback of Notre Dame, and it has Esmeralda on the pin, and we picked that up. That was one of the pins that when you walk into, we got it at the pin trading store in Epcot. When you walk into that store, there's actually a plexiglass case, and they are behind the glass because they really don't want people trying to yank those pins.
Every park has those. I know at Animal Kingdom, it's in Discovery Trading Company. I know at Magic Kingdom, it's in the one that's in Frontierland. There's the store that has all the pins in it. And Hollywood Studios, I'm not sure of where that is. But every park has the limited edition section. So you're not going to every store in the parks. There's the one store that has the limited edition pins. And I will tell you, as a cast member who gets to go to Walt Disney World often, those are the stores I go in every time I go just to see what's new.
So let's say that you listen to this podcast, you've heard about pin trading before, you're about to go on a week-long vacation to Walt Disney World. And in addition to some of the snacks, some of the meals, some of the rides, you're like, this might be something I want to add to my Walt Disney World experience the next time I'm there. I don't get to go to the parks every week like Rick. I don't work in the parks a few times a week like Jeff. What would be a good way to get started as a pin trader if I don't have an unlimited amount of time to be there and I just want to make it a part of my vacation but still feel like I'm getting a lot of quality interaction out of pin trading?
So one of the things I did, it was my very first trip to Walt Disney World, was only a couple years ago. The first day we went to Disney Springs, and I saw that they had just a ton of pins in the World of Disney store, and I just thought it was weird that like pins are all along the wall and just for everything, anything you could think of, it's on the wall, and I'm just like, this is bizarre. The next day I went to Magic Kingdom. I realized people were wearing like lanyards and had pins on them, and I thought that was interesting. But you notice how many places sell pins and how diverse they are. That what I did was I got a lanyard and I got a pin from every ride that we went on and one for the park. I got to take that home and I hung it up on my wall as a scrapbook of my trip. I know what parks we went to. I know what rides we did because I got one from everything. And, on the cheapest side, they're $10. If I'm going to Disney World, I have some money already because I'm buying a ticket and paying for hotels and all that stuff. So $10 for a souvenir that's going to last a lifetime. This is the first time I went on Haunted Mansion. This was my pin that I bought for that. And, I went to Hollywood Studios. That was my first walk into Hollywood Studios and my first, I have this entire physical scrapbook. It's not going to go away. It's not going to fade like pictures are or, whatever. You have these physical memories and then you realize, oh, this one's really cool with Mickey on it. I like that. I like that one. And oh, this person over here has one. And you actually interact with guests in the park too, because pin trading is a thing. And I've seen so many times where it's a very magical thing for kids. I'll just throw that out there as a cast member. It's a very magical thing for kids. They love the pins. They love they just love trade. Like kids come up all the time and just want to trade. They don't care about the rarity or the cost or they just like the physical trading, just like we did with baseball cards as a kid. They'll be in line and they're like, I want to trade for the Simba one because Simba's my favorite character. And there's a person behind them who's a hardcore pin collector, has their giant binder of pins and goes, hey, come on over here. You want to look at if you want any of these ones? Because they're, doubles or they want to get rid of. They don't care about just a basic Simba one like this little kid is. And you see this magic happening all the time out there. So it's certainly a way to continue the magic when you go home from your trip. That trip to the airport is the saddest ride at Disney. And keeping those memories going is what's going to get you through the day to the next time you get to come back.
And now we're very specifically talking about Walt Disney World pin trading. And yes, there's pin trading at Disneyland and Disneyland Paris and Shanghai Disneyland and the parks out in Japan and all of those things. But it is not exclusively a hobby for Disney people. For example, you head east on I-4 a little bit and Universal has pins available. Do you find yourself engaging in other types of pin collecting, or are you basically specifically a Disney pin collector?
I always look at them. I go to places and even SeaWorld has them in every store. I've been to the SeaWorld in Orlando. They have pins. It's most popular at Walt Disney World because Walt Disney World encourages the trading of them. Universal does it. You don't have pin boards at Universal. But I go and look, and some of them I buy. I'm not going to lie. I'm a big horror fan, and I go to Halloween Horror Nights. I have a pass to go. And because you need to show that physical cardboard card to get in, I have a lanyard that has the protective thing. And if you're wearing a lanyard, you should put pins on it. So I have a couple, even non-Universal horror pins. I have one of Michael Myers because that's my favorite horror franchise. So I have Michael Myers ones on there. I got one at Universal. It was Hello Kitty as Dracula, and I have that pin on there. So I have pins from other places. It's just there's not a community of trading, and there's not encouraged by the company itself to trade like it is with Disney. I have, hundreds of Disney pins. I have 5 Universal pins.
So I've since sold my acoustic guitar, and now I only have an electric guitar. But on my old acoustic guitar bag, I used to put pins on it because it made it look cool.
Exactly.
And then I started going to Disney and noticed that Disney had this huge pin trading community. So I never really looked into them beyond just getting some for this acoustic guitar bag that I used to own. But now that I've been introduced to the Disney pin trading community, I notice them in other places that I didn't notice them before. For example, I live in the Tampa area, and all of the sports teams here have essentially pin walls. And I didn't even know this was a thing. I now have a Tampa Bay Buccaneers Super Bowl champion pin. And yeah, all of the local sports teams, the Rays have American League Champion 2020 pins, and the Lightning have Stanley Cup champion pins. And I just never noticed that this was a thing. And they'll have them for opening day of the hockey season. It's such a unique niche in the collecting community, but it is really a big niche that you didn't even maybe notice existed?
I think one of the factors is that they're small, but they're durable. It's a metal pin. It's not going to, I mean, you can have issues where something breaks on them, or the pin part might break off the back of the pin itself. But on the whole, I have tons of pins and they don't get damaged. And it's very easy to collect. It's very easy to trade. It's very easy to display. I tell people, if you're just starting out, get the lanyard, because everyone has a lanyard and you can wear it around the park. But after a couple of days, they get kind of heavy and you're going to run out of room on the pin. So I have cork boards on my walls that I put the pins in. I have a denim vest when I want to display them in the parks, because the lanyard's just not going to cut it for the 75 pins on my vest, And collecting is such a unique thing that if you're a collector, you completely understand, because I collected hockey cards as a kid. I don't know if you remember in the 90s, the sticker books. You bought the book for like a couple bucks and you bought the packs of stickers and you collected them, and then you traded those with your friends, the doubles you got and all that stuff. And when I started coming Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom, it was a thing to collect in the parks. So I was all about it. I have them sitting right in front of me right now because sadly it's no more. But collecting is such a thing that gets under your skin regardless of what the thing you're collecting is. I think it's a great thing that all of these places are fostering it. You can collect Mickey plushes and you'll get all 3 of them that they sell in the park. And then there's the special Halloween one, and you'll get that one. And that's the end of it until maybe Christmas time. And then you'll get that one Christmas one. And then that's the end of it. Whereas pins are coming out every week. A new limited edition one comes out, and a new movie comes out, and a new movie comes out, pins are coming with it. It's kind of ingrained in Disney right now that if you're a collector type, it's a great thing to get behind.
And if your movie is Hercules or Hunchback of Notre Dame or Oliver and Company or something that is more obscure, The Rocketeer, or Jeff and his obsession with Who Framed Roger Rabbit, it's a chance to get merch when you wouldn't necessarily have that chance. They're not making an Esmeralda plush.
Yeah.
They're not making an Esmeralda doll with the curlable hair like they do with the princesses and with some of the other female characters. This might be your big chance to get that character that you love. I know I talked about Brave having an anniversary coming up next year, but in a couple years, there's going to be a big anniversary for Hercules. And I'm like, I can't wait for that Megara stuff to be created because she's one of my favorite characters. And every once in a while, it'll come up on a 5-year anniversary of Robin Hood. And then you get all this Robin Hood merch. And it's just really, really cool how they're able to celebrate these older movies that aren't in the parks all the time, because every 5 years they have an important anniversary. So it's going to pop up. And one of the ways it's going to pop up is through pin trading. I also like that you mentioned the Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom cards, because I also have a very big stack of them here, and I'm going to find a way to start giving them away to people, and I'm just trying to figure out how to do that. But I definitely think there are people who collect those Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom cards, and I'm not one of those jerks who's going to put stuff up on eBay and try to make money off of it. So I'm going to try to find ways to get these out to those of you who listen to the podcast or follow me on social media and things like that. Jeff, you're a gentleman and a scholar, and I really appreciate learning a lot more about pin trading with you. Hopefully this has sparked some interest in some of our listeners, and maybe it is a hobby that they take up on their next trip to Walt Disney World.
As always, it's been a pleasure to talk with you.
Visit my social media pages to see some pictures of some of Jeff's favorite pins. Facebook.com/ear-to-there-Rick, Twitter.com/Rick_ear, and Instagram.com/RickEar2there. He shared some images with me so I can show you a little more about what we've been talking about over this episode. Now let's bring on Sarah from Seattle to talk Disneyland food. Thank you for joining us, Sarah.
I am so excited to talk some food because we had some amazing food.
So back on our Disneyland vacation back in August, the vacation about which we will never stop talking.
Exactly.
We had some very good dining experiences, so we're going to turn them into dining reviews. I know you all like to hear about different food options throughout all of the theme parks. And one of those, on the first night we were there, we went to Blue Bayou. So we're going to talk about the food in a second, but set the scene for anybody who doesn't know Blue Bayou and what the atmosphere is like there.
Yes, the atmosphere I think is one of the biggest draws to Blue Bayou in my opinion. It's awesome. You check in, you get pulled into their like waiting lobby area, which is nice with some little couches and things. And then as you're walking in, you go up these little stairs and all of a sudden it's like you're in an outdoor garden party on the bayou. So almost like that party in Princess and the Frog where they're having the party with the beignets and all that stuff. That's what it reminds me of. But you're right on the beginning track of Pirates of the Caribbean. So if you're close to the fence, you can see the boats going by. There's some really fun like Cajun music playing, and you're sitting at little tables that are like little outside, I guess, seating. I mean, it's like you're sitting outside, but you're inside.
I know for a lot of Walt Disney World regulars, they'll compare this to San Angel Inn at the Mexico Pavilion in Epcot's World Showcase. But this is a much better, more fine dining experience than in the Epcot Mexico Pavilion. You are dealing with a really, really classy restaurant here that has some really top shelf food. I'm not putting down San Angel Inn, although I'm not really a fan of it. This is a similar vibe. You have the boat ride going past you. You're in an indoor situation that looks like it's outdoors. They're replicating the same thing, but as is the case with so many things, the Disneyland version is better. So our party was Sarah, myself, and my wife, Courtney. However, to make this easier, Courtney and Sarah just got the exact same thing, so we didn't need her for this dining review, and we couldn't quite make the schedules work. So if Sarah says she got something, that's also what Courtney got. So we're going to start with the starters, and I believe all three of us got the house salad, correct?
Correct, yes.
Baby greens, blue cheese crumbles, candied pecans, dried fruit, onions, cherry tomatoes, and a sherry vinaigrette. It was the dry fruits and the sherry vinaigrette that really stood out for me. I thought that added a little bit of sweetness to the dish.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of just being a regular salad, it just had a little bit of sweetness, and it just brought out the other flavors a little more.
Yeah, I totally agree. And my favorite part was when we were all sitting there trying to identify what the dried fruit was. And I think when we had it, it was strawberries, which, yeah, it was delicious. And I love the candied pecans and all the different textures as well, because, you know, it's so dim in there sometimes that you're looking and you take a bite and you're like, oh, there's something crunchy in here too. But no, it was delicious and all the flavors worked really well together.
Yeah, and a shout out to the blue cheese crumbles as well, because blue cheese can go really, really well as a background flavor, and it really worked that way with the house salad. Now, that's actually a lot of conversation about a house salad, which just goes to show how much they go above and beyond at Blue Bayou, that you can even talk this much about a generic house salad, because it very much is not generic. It is $7 for the house salad, by the way. Now we're going to move on to the entrees. Sarah, you and Courtney got the jambalaya.
Yes, we did.
This is jumbo shrimp, andouille sausage, chicken, tasso ham, I'm guessing is how you pronounce it, Creole rice, spiced tomato jus. $36. So it hits the wallet a little bit, but was it worth it?
It was so worth it. I would have paid more for that jambalaya, to be completely honest. It was amazing. And the plating for it was so good too, because it wasn't like a jambalaya when you think it's just thrown into a pot and then thrown on your plate. The jus is actually like hidden under the rice. And Courtney and I both were like, when we hit it, we looked at each other and we were like, did you just try that? That was so good. And so you don't have all of your meat and everything just soaked in the jus. Like, it's very nicely arranged on there. So there's like the giant pieces of shrimp next to the sausage and the chicken and the ham, and you can kind of mix it up how you want versus it just being there.
And please don't let Bob Chapek and the rest of Disney management hear you say that you would gladly have paid more for it, because they will gladly accommodate you on that, Sarah. So,
but no, it was amazing. It was amazing.
I got the Cauliflower Steak, which has been renamed on the menu even since we went there, to the Cajun Cauliflower. It is $29. They changed the name of it. I'm not sure if they changed any of the ingredients. It looks fairly similar to what I got, but it's Romanesco sauce, mushroom chips, Cajun cheddar, wilted greens, and shishito chimichurri. I know when I got it, the Cajun cheddar was plant-based. I'm not sure if it is plant-based in this version. If you are 100% vegan, you will want to ask about that just to make sure that you're covered. I am not a fan of cooked vegetables. Some of them I am, but not cauliflower and broccoli. I don't like that texture. I would call it smushy, but I know that's not like a real word. However, the cauliflower steak at Blue Bayou was not like that. It still had a firmness to it, and it almost tasted like steak. It was unbelievable how they turned. I know that it's a big trendy thing now to make cauliflower try to taste like other stuff. They never make it work, but Blue Bayou made it work. It was really, really good. Like I said, $29 for this dish. Is it a little pricey? Yeah, it's a little pricey, but it is cheaper and substantially cheaper than some of the items that have shrimp or other meats. I often don't like having to pay more when I know that the ingredients cost them less, so I will take the $7 difference. I think that's acceptable and just really, really good. I always like them having options for people who are vegetarian or plant-based, and I was surprised that I liked cooked cauliflower this much. And because I did clear all the vegetables off my plate, it was time for desserts. And there are two options that don't have anything to do with wine or cider flights. The 8-layer chocolate and hazelnut cake for $10. That is chantilly cream and macaroon. And the vanilla bourbon creme brulee with macerated fresh berries, vanilla bean chantilly, and mandolins, $9. Sarah, you got the 8-layer chocolate and hazelnut cake. How did it taste?
It was delicious. I'm usually a creme brulee person, I'm not going to lie, but I wanted to try something different. And it's very rich. I could not finish it. And that could also be because I ate everything of everything else as well. But it has a great balance between the chocolate and the hazelnut, where sometimes you get a lot of one or a lot of the other, because hazelnut can be a pretty strong flavor. But it definitely, other than being very filling, it was really well balanced. It was really delicious.
And I don't think I even have to go into that much description of the creme brulee, because a good creme brulee, you know how it tastes. You crack that top level and then you get into the creamier center, and everything was done perfect. There are certain dishes that I feel Disney always does well, and some that I think they rarely ever do well. Like, it's hard to find a good Disney pizza. There are some, but there aren't a lot of good ones. I think Disney always nails creme brulee.
Oh, that's good to know. I don't know if I've ever had Disney creme brulee. No, I need to try.
There's a really good version of it at the bakery in the France Pavilion at Epcot at Walt Disney World. And this is obviously a step up from that. It's a fancier version of that. It's a full dessert version of what you can get. And just awesome. Just absolutely loved it. Great way to top off a great meal. And Blue Bayou was such a fantastic restaurant to be our first sit-down dining experience of the entire trip. It's so iconic. Being inside Pirates of the Caribbean, it just doesn't get any better than that, honestly.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And also props to the waiter that we had because he was amazing. Like I don't even think we got halfway through like our drinks before he was like he had a new one. He was always there checking on us, but not in an obnoxious way. So props to our waiter. He was fantastic.
It's almost hard to describe how we were constantly getting our food when we wanted it, but he wasn't hovering.
Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't one of those things where we had like 6 plates because everybody was still working on their salad and then their entree came out for them and maybe the dessert was rushed into a little bit. He wasn't asking us a million questions, but he was making sure that we had our drinks and our food always seemed to come right when we were finished with the previous course.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing.
Thank you so much for joining me again, Sarah. It is always great to have you on the show.
Yes, thank you for having me. I love it here.
This has been episode 40 of Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty. For Jeff, the creator of the blog Magical Pursuit, and for Sarah from Seattle, I'm Rick Doherty. We will have a brand new episode next Thursday. Until then, have a great week.